Hi, everyone. I am here with the wonderful John Reager, who is a dear, dear friend and an earth scientist from NASA. He lives in California, Los Angeles, and we are here to talk about the earth, our planet, and how the way we treat the earth relates to how we treat each other in relationships or in different types of relationships or also in our single life, basically in our love life as lovers. Hi, John. So great.
Hi, Cecilia. Thank you for having me. And actually, right now I'm actually in New York, and it's very, very cold here. And I was going to ask you just a small talk for a minute. How cold is it in Berlin these days?
Honestly, I think today it's like 13 degrees, like
Okay,
Celsius.
not
So
too
it's
bad.
not that cold,
Yeah,
but we had some very cold days,
yeah.
like -10.
Oh, this is brutal. Yes.
I don't know what it is in Fahrenheit, but
Yeah. Well, it's cold. It's very, very cold. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and then there's as you know, Los Angeles is pretty sunny and warm almost all the time. It's been
yeah,
good.
yeah. But you enjoy New York.
I enjoy it. It's a great city. A lot of good energy, concentrated energy, all kinds of energy. Good energy, bad energy. It's all here. It's a bit of a fountain of energy. And right now it's just very, very cold. It's maybe maybe it's maybe 5 or 10 below zero in Celsius. So it's freezing.
Mm. Mm. John, what do you work on right now? Can you share a little bit?
Yeah, so just to update people who may not know, so I'm an earth scientist. So at NASA, we have basically three types of science. At NASA, our expertise is putting things into space, like astronauts and rockets and Mars rovers and things like this. We have astronomy at NASA, so that's putting things up into orbit, like telescopes that look out into the universe and look for stars and exoplanets and these types of things. Then we also launch robots and satellites to other planets in our solar system, like the Mars rover, which drives around on Mars and takes pictures of the red planet. And that's called planetary science. And then we also do Earth science, which is we send things up to orbit around the Earth that look back down at the Earth and tell us how the Earth is changing and evolving. And oftentimes I tell people we're like doctors for the planet. So just like a doctor listens to your heart with a stethoscope or looks in your ear with that little round thing that lights up, we have different instruments up in space, and they're watching the changing ice sheets or the sea level rise or the fires in the Amazon and giving us this kind of holistic picture of how the planet's health is and what the prognosis is and how things are changing in time.
Mm.
And so that's my work. I'm an earth scientist at NASA.
Mm. This is so interesting to have this doctors for the planet
That's right.
because it makes me immediately think like, is this holistic? Do you feel like you're a
Yeah.
holistic doctor or you, is it where do you yeah.
Yeah, I guess the difference is, when you go to a doctor, they're going to take some data on you, on your body, and tell you your health, and then make a recommendation maybe for what to do. Okay, maybe you need to stop smoking, or you need to exercise more, or you need to stop eating at McDonald's or something like that for Americans. And for us, it kind of stops there. We don't really get to make recommendations. All that we do is observe, and
Yeah.
that's kind of the end of our job. So it's interesting as a job because it is objective. So or let me say like this: it's objective in strategy. We don't have an agenda. We just observe what's happening.
Mm.
It's completely subjective in this, just like in physics, in the sense that when you observe something, you change it. So the way that you look at it defines what you see, and certain parts actually pop out more or less depending on how you look at things. And so this is certainly true. We put different instruments up in space and we're seeing different processes. And then, conceptually on the ground, we try to link all that together and have this holistic view of what's changing on the earth. In terms of recommendations, that's when it can get a little tricky, because I think just like a really good doctor, human doctor, you would want to consider the holistic health, including, as you know, not only physical, but also spiritual and mental health. And these things are intimately intertwined for humans. They're probably pretty intertwined for the planet as well. And in the sense that maybe humans are kind of represent the brain of the planet, that we're this kind of network of little nodes, and we communicate and share information and make decisions about the planet that actually affect its health. In some ways, we're the thinking part of the planet. And so I always find it interesting that the planet chose to evolve that thinking portion, this thinking organ, which is human society. And yeah, but then, there's also kind of the physical health of the planet, the structure of the planet, the temperature of the planet, the forests and the rocks and the oceans. And then there's certainly a spiritual part of the planet, I feel, at least, which is, all living things kind of have this interconnected nature.
Mm.
And if you sit still for a little bit, you can even feel it. It's really cool.
Mm. And is there a way how you are communicating this, like how you do researches on these kind of phenomena?
Not really. I mean, I've had a Buddhist practice since I was in my 20s. And what that has given to me in about 20 years or so is this kind of spiritual container around my life experience. And I find that my experience as a scientist also fits really well into that container, as with interpersonal relationships and personal growth and mental health. All the things kind of fit into this container, because I think, some Buddhist philosophy, as with many religions, is just trying to describe the nature of reality. It's trying to describe, what is this life? What is it to be alive and to live a life and to love and to lose and to live and to die? What do those things mean? And I think as humans, we naturally have that question. What does it all mean? What's the purpose? What am I doing here? Why is this happening like this? Why am I not getting what I'm wanting? And so definitely looking at the planet, you can see some of these principles on the nature of what is reality, the kind of guiding rules for what it means to exist, what life is. You can see them manifested in the earth, in the nature of the planet, that all living things are interdependent. So I think Albert Einstein had this great quote that if all the honeybees on the planet were to die, all life on the planet would be extinct within 3 years or something, because we would lose our pollinators that pollinate all the flowers and create all the fruit, and the whole life cycle, the chain of life that springs from the action of bees is so important and critical to supporting life on the planet as we know it. So that interconnected nature is very real. We see that very much from space. So when we're burning the Amazon, or we're polluting water and polluting the atmosphere, it has consequences, far-reaching consequences, many times beyond what scientists can predict. And that interconnected nature of the planet is very, very interesting, and kind of a core principle of Buddhist practice. So that's been cool. Yeah.
It leads me to a question which is not supposed to be in any way offensive, but just
Okay.
how I know how I, in my own world, can look very self-critical at what I'm doing. Is there, or are there moments when you think, well, what I'm doing is I'm researching and I'm not touching this very level where we were just talking about, that you sort of feel, but I should, in order to get the picture? Is there some sort of, something is really missing, or does it feel, no, I'm doing that part and this is powerful?
Yeah, this is I'm not going to answer this question. I think I can speak for myself that this is a very sensitive question. It's a very fragile question. I think that when we look at ourselves, and for instance, a meditation practice, things are happening in our lives. Things then stimulate an emotional response in us. We may be happy, we may be sad, we may be angry, upset. We tend to be reactive in our nature. We tend to want to act right away, to fix things or change things so that we can get back into that state of happiness. Mm-hmm. And then once we have that state of happiness, we like to lock things down and say, all right, don't ever change. Nothing here, I hope nothing here ever changes. Mm-hmm. And of course it does. And we're left with this, holding this mess of, it's slipping through my fingers. I'm not able to hold on to what was once good and made me happy. So that's the nature of life. People come and go, people live and die, experiences come and go. Nothing is permanent, right? Everything is changing always. And understanding that is so important. In a meditation practice, we learn that in the sense of being still, if we can be still in discomfort, if we can hold a little bit in discomfort and allow ourselves to move into the discomfort, to relax into the discomfort, to maybe ask the question, what is the nature of the discomfort? What does it actually feel like? Where is the actual pain coming from? What am I actually losing or scared of losing? Where is the absence? What is missing? What needs to be done? That there's a deeper, I think there's a deeper sense of action. That's not the reactive type of action, but that maybe after stillness, maybe after consideration, maybe after removing our own very subjective perspective from things, sometimes in seeing the bigger picture, then we can see maybe a clear path to action that benefits many people, maybe not only ourselves, and maybe not only for the short term. And we start thinking about long-term paths and long-term choices and long-term influence and long-term happiness. And all those things, I think there's a scale between action and non-action that is a bit of a spectrum. And I think that's where the wisdom comes in. That's where I don't have an answer, because I think every person needs to decide from themselves when is the time to act? When is the moment to take a stand? When is the moment when you can no longer resist action? But I think if that comes from this point of stillness and peace, it can be much more effective action. And I think if it comes from the perspective of chaos and always being reactive, it's much less effective action. So I think as scientists, so to bring it back home, I think as scientists, we see all these changes happening on the planet. And instead of immediately judging good and bad, oh, we've had more fires, last year in the Amazon than any other year previous. We need to do something, and reacting. Maybe there's another long-term vision, a long-term trajectory that we can see, not just looking at last year, but looking at the past 10 years or 20 years or 30 years or 50 years to see the changes that are coming in, to understand what's happening on the ground, to move into the issue, to understand what are the drivers of these fires, why are they happening, who's creating them, why are they creating them, and to understand what is the nature of that burning that exists there, to really look at it. And then from that perspective of peace and knowledge, usually a natural path to action arises. Mm-hmm. I don't know what that is yet with the fires, but I'm working on it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting how you claimed not to answer, and you basically did answer.
Yeah, of course.
Pretty clearly. How can we relate this to relationships? Isn't it, in a way, similar? Mm-hmm. More fires, sometimes intense phases.
Yeah.
Observation is needed. Resting and peace, not immediate action, is recommended. Absolutely. Emotions are, anyway, forcing us to do things in a way where we actually didn't plan.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think the analogs are really clear. I think everything I just said essentially could be applied to relationships. Absolutely. Yeah.
So we came up with the topic of this call because I had this thesis or this idea, which I already question a lot. And it came from a very emotional point in me where I said, you know what, John, I think all these codependent couples are causing damage to the earth. They are the very problem why this is not moving here. This is so boring. All these people who are sitting on their couch and who are sort of in comfort, in a comfortable way, holding on to dysfunctional relationships. So this was very general and very much out of my own frustration, my own questions, and my own. And I think it's bullshit, and it's not. So I feel that it's way more interesting to look at, okay, what have dysfunctional relationships and dysfunctional singles in common. What is the actual break? Where is it slowing down? Is there such a thing like human beings do actively prevent their consciousness to evolve? Is there some sort of ignorance, which some people even call stupidity? Or is this unreal? And could anyone at this point blame anyone to either harm each other or harm the planet? Or is this in itself just not necessary? And can we just be observers and scientists of emotions? And
I think we're all scientists, actually, and we just don't consider that. But I think we all experiment with life, and we take little chances here and there, and then we compare how it makes us feel, and maybe we go down that path further or not. And I think that's essentially what science is you do little experiments, and you see if it works, and then you keep down that path. So I think we're all kind of scientists if we live kind of self-examined lives. And I want to say, you said so many interesting things there that just got me really thinking that I think one of the foundational components of intelligence is this ability to see patterns in different things that are different, to see similarities across those things. And certainly, I mean, the way that we deal with ourselves, the way that we are with others in relationship, and then the way that we interact with society and the way that we conceptualize the planet, of course, all those things are similar. And I think it's very clever. I think, as you know, if you're seeing, in your work, if you're seeing a lot of suffering in singles and what we could call illness or discomfort in singles and couples, dysfunctionality, as you called it. If you think about that dysfunctionality, what the nature of it is, whether it's fear or it's pain, it's trauma that has not been healed, and then you scale that up to millions and millions and billions of people, of course it has an impact on the planet. Of course it does. Of course it does. So I think that, I think the interesting thing about our work are the parallels, Cecilia, because I think we're essentially working on the same problem, and we're working on it on two different levels. And when you work with individuals and you help them to see and acknowledge their own fear, or to see and acknowledge their own courage, or to see and acknowledge their own strength, their own wisdom, it's like asking the question, why is the planet in the state it's in, is like asking the question, well, why are relationships in the state they're in? It's the same question. It's the same answer. On some level, it's the same answer. And I think in general, this is my opinion. I'll now answer your question. I think, in my opinion, fear is prevalent. There's a fear of dying, a fear of discomfort, a fear of loneliness. And that those fears generate ignorance, that those fears are what have driven us to survive as a species. So they're not bad things, that if we were let free in the wild by ourselves, we would be scared. The first thing we consider would be maybe trying to find other people for survival, to live in a group. We know we would have more success that way. So there's a natural driver for these feelings of loneliness. Of course, that's why we feel it, because we don't want to die. And feelings of attachment, feelings of abandonment, feelings of control in relationships, I think they all come from these fears of being alone. We do the same things, just quickly to say, we do the same things in our careers. People that are concerned with making a lot of money, of, that kind of attachment, or that kind of too much grabbing. I need it. This not having it. So I need it. Not having wealth and not being surrounded by abundance, this neediness. It's that same fear of, maybe I won't survive because I don't have enough food. So I think on some level, these fears are so difficult to work with because they're so primal. They're such a part of who we are as humans, as human animals. But what is happening is we are so quickly evolving. We're really evolving into something new, into a new state of being and a new state of consciousness, and learning to be okay with realizing, one, you're never alone. Realizing, two, there's really no lack of abundance. Everything you need is here. You have so much. And realizing, three, that you can probably create anything you want by focusing on what you want to see instead of what you're afraid of. And moving through the world this way, I mean, if we could get people, individuals and then couples and then millions and then billions to think in this way, to think together on what are we doing and to move in the same direction. I think that evolution is coming. I think it's actually happening in the kind of social network brain of our planet. There's a lot more consciousness just in the past year, 2 years, 5 years on the environment, on the planet, and on healthy relationships as well. I will say, I see more and more posts on Instagram about what a healthy relationship is. And it's even, no judgment about the quality of the material that gets posted out there, but the fact that the question is in the consciousness of more and more people, that's a progress. That's an evolution.
Or
I
it's
think it's interesting.
following.
Sorry, say it again.
Or it's just whom you are following.
That's right. That's right. That's true. That's where my consciousness is living. That's right. Yeah, exactly. Good point.
No, but I think it's real. I feel I'm following the same.
That's right. Very good. Okay.
That's interesting. I feel very optimistic too, and I think it's super interesting how sometimes through how others react or how the concern of other people goes to dramatic places,
Mm-hmm.
or where people are like, well, we have no time, especially around the planet.
Mm-hmm.
I feel very, very weird about my optimism and my intuition that tells me this evolution is happening in tune with the divine and it's and this is supposed to happen this way. And so optimism is there, trust is there, still seeing the pain of the earth as I'm seeing the pain of human beings in not recognizing themselves. It's a weird mix, I feel, a synchronicity of seemingly contradicting aspects.
I want to say that I'm really optimistic, but I'll be honest with you. Here's what I think. I have days where I think, maybe you can relate to this. I don't know. I have days where I think, this is great. We're going to do this. We're going to save this planet. We're going to figure out a better way to live. We're going to have healthy relationships. We're evolving and it's looking really good. And then I have other days where I wake up and say, we're so fucked. We're so completely screwed. It's never going to happen. And it's like it oscillates between these two states. But I think in that oscillation back and forth, right, there's a bit of this realization that, well, it's a choice. What am I going to choose to believe? And how am I going to choose to incorporate that into my perspective? Because that's going to affect a whole bunch of other people and affect what I do with my day. So it's a, yeah. Yeah.
Do you have days where you're like, I think we as human beings are so stupid? Do you sometimes think like this?
Absolutely. I really do.
And when someone pops up and says, hey, John, we're not stupid, we're just traumatized.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think this person is right, or like, could I convince you? Or say, yeah, nice, but
I'm not even sure that it's true. That yes, yes, I think that's part of it. I'm not even sure that traumatized is the right perspective for me either, because I think that there's an evolution happening. So, and I think that everything that we have done so far in our collective lives has been for survival, that we haven't had a choice, that this is what we've had to do. And I think we have to take that approach a little bit personally as well. Like everything I've done so far in my life, I've had to do for survival. It may not be the best way to live, but in that, there's this little bit of forgiving of like, okay, I made it this far. Thank you, self, for making it this far. So thank you, humanity, for making it this far. There's been a lot of things that could have maybe wiped us out. I don't know. Thank you. We could have all been eaten by, I don't know, whatever. Could have all been eaten by something. I don't know. So I'm glad we've all learned to survive at this point. You know, I guess at some point we would have all frozen to death or not been able to. Certainly, I mean, the reason we exist today is because we've hunted and eaten animals in our past.
I have a question.
Yeah.
If you have those days and say, stupid human beings, why do you feel it's so thank you that we survived? Why shouldn't species survive instead of us?
Yeah. Well, we've been smart enough to survive. So I guess we're not that stupid. But I think in acknowledging, I mean, stupid is a relative term, right? So it's stupid compared to what? It's like intelligent compared to what?
We're stupid. I absolutely, I don't agree with people who say stupid human beings. Coming from an innocent, not knowing, and I think it's not even ignorance. I believe it's exactly what you said. We are sort of not daring to go into our fear, into our pain. I believe, and we have an issue with trauma here.
Yeah.
So I think it's beautiful that we get to know us better.
Definitely. Yes. I think part of getting to know ourselves better is then also getting to understand nature better, our connection to each other, our connection to the planet. And that's maybe there's a healthy way to live. I guess that would be different for everyone, but maybe there is a healthy way to live in which we treat ourselves with respect and we see the connectedness between ourselves and everything around us. And there has to be gratitude in that, right? There has to be like, wow, I wouldn't even exist if my parents had not done X and Y, if my parents had not met or had not taken a job somewhere or had not fought for this or that, I would not even exist. So I'm grateful even for the trauma in some sense, because it's all part of the package.
Yeah.
And so everything that has arrived at this point, I have to have gratitude for. Now, going forward, I may want to do things completely differently. I may not want to repeat the same mistakes. I may want to create new things that I want, new ways of existing, thinking, living, designing. So when I think that's totally possible for humanity. I think we can be grateful even for the trouble we cause now. I think we can be grateful. Everything that's brought us up to this point, we've survived. Thank you. We've done it. Now it's okay. We don't have to be scared anymore. We can move into that. Yeah, please.
Relationship thing here going on with
Yeah.
the planet and humanity.
Yeah.
And the basics of working on relationship is communication.
Mm.
Can say, as you might also, agree with that the planet communicates very clearly and very
Mhm.
well, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Do you think it could be an approach to say humanity has to listen and
Mhm.
even communicate
Absolutely.
back? That it's not so
Mhm.
much like, of course, yeah, we need to listen and like look at the fact,
Mhm.
but even the communicating back factor. What could
Yeah.
this, if we translate it to this relationship?
Yeah. Absolutely. I think that's a great way to think about it. Communication is the key. Communication is a tool. How do we communicate with the planet? I think we do it in so many ways. I mean, plants are the first thing that pop into my mind, right? That every time you eat a strawberry, there's information in that plant. You can think of it that way. It's information. And your body takes that plant and digests it and breaks down these wonderful chemicals and takes some of them and doesn't take others and passes it through your body. And you've had this wonderful sex with a strawberry on some level. There's this wonderful taking and giving of energy. And it's amazing. And every time we do that, even they've had these experiments, right, with houseplants where if people talk to their houseplants, they thrive, they do better, they live longer, they're happier and greener and these things. So it's like, yes, obviously it's all connected. The planet is everything. It is all of us, all around us. And yeah, I think touching it, saying thank you, understanding the communion that we are in with nature at all times, even breathing, even the fact that our bodies are full of microorganisms that by definition are not us, they're not human. It's an ecosystem. We are in and out of us, surrounded by everything that is nature, by the planet.
Yeah.
Ubiquitous.
So
Yeah.
also we could say it's not even about finally entering a state of having a good relationship. It could be a very interesting relationship if
Yes.
we allow ourselves to pay attention to what's actually going on.
Yeah.
Right? Like this
I
is,
totally agree. Yeah.
let's sit with the miracle and let's experience the love and the orgasms and
Yes.
the
I have definitely had fruit orgasms. The fruit is just so delicious. You just like, you
and
can feel it moving.
so interesting that you mentioned the strawberry because
Yeah.
in plant medicine ceremonies, the
Mm.
strawberry came up for me many times, and like as if it presented to me its special quality. And recently, I watched Matrix 4 Resurrections. I don't know,
I
and
haven't seen it yet. Yeah.
the strawberry, and I was like, "This is all. This is all,
Uh-huh. Interesting. It's all
yeah,
connected.
yeah."
Very cool.
You should watch the movie. It's I
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes, I mean, I can't wait to see this movie actually. But sometimes even just seeing flowers on the side of the road, I'm just amazed by the beauty. And there's communication in that, even though there's no words exchanged, there's a recognition and it feels to be mutual. I feel like the flower is seeing me as much as I'm seeing the flower. I don't know if that's true, but that's what it feels like. And I think something you said there was really important for me just now, that I think I learned something, which is that I think in personal relationships, so many times, especially romantic ones, I walk in with a list of things I want in that relationship. And certainly if you've had any experience on like dating apps or something like that, on their profiles, people write a list of what they want. And I wonder how different it would be to show up for a relationship, whether it's with the planet or with a business colleague or with a romantic partner or lover. And instead of saying, here's what I want, coming in with the approach of, what can I learn? What do I not know in this situation or this relationship? What can be revealed to me? And I think in looking at the planet that way, in eating a strawberry that way, what can I learn right now by eating this strawberry, this particular strawberry that is unique from all strawberries I've ever eaten before? What can I learn from you? It's a different approach.
Yeah, and I feel it's interesting that you mentioned the dating app, because the dating app means you have chosen someone. And with the planet, sometimes it seems people forget or don't consider that we might have chosen to be here, and that this might be a special gift or a special opportunity. Whereas when we go on a date, which we have chosen before, then this could be this, yeah, we agreed on, this is already a good thing.
Yes, right.
Interesting. This is cool.
Yeah.
And maybe would that mean you actually consider in general to have more the attitude of not be so connected to what you want and just be more in a receiving mode?
Well, I wouldn't say that. I think the receiving mode, I think it's important, in my personal opinion, I have found in my life that it's important to have both. I think when we want things, for myself, when I want things that I've thought about and are healthy, and it's a real heart desire, it's something that I want to create in my life, this is usually a good thing. I don't know how to describe what is a good thing, but it's, if I follow that thing, usually wisdom unfolds. Usually something is there for me on my path, and I follow that heart desire and I find my path. I think what happens many times, though, especially in the world we live in, is from that heart path, from that deeper desire, comes shallow distractions and temptations and things that don't actually bring me to my heart desire. And sometimes those distractions and temptations resonate with my fear, and they resonate with anger, and they resonate with, the darker parts of me, so to speak. And then not that that's a problem, but just then it becomes a bit unconscious, that I'm not aware, not remembering what I wanted in the first place or where I was headed, and I become a bit lost. And so I find that all the time. I'm like, just actually on a daily basis, sometimes I get distracted by things. But I think that remembering what's important on the heart level is really crucial. And I think for humans, we're going through that struggle right now. We're going through that temptation and distraction and fear resonance right now, not remembering what truly makes us happy. Because I think if we always follow our hearts and do what really makes us happy, that is for the ultimate good of the planet. The health of the planet depends on that, on us following our hearts and our desires. I just think that we get distracted.
Do you believe that what do you feel is the root of the distraction if we consider ourselves as the ultimate creators of our own reality? Why would I create a distraction? Is it because of the resonance to my fear, or is it something different?
For me, my understanding is that we kind of create this illusion, that we create a bit of a fantasy, and usually that will protect some part of our psyche or of our maybe it's trauma, maybe it's part of us that we're scared to look into, and we'll create incredible distractions for ourselves instead of having the simple courage to sit in that discomfort.
So you basically say it's because of the fear and because we don't want to sit in discomfort.
Yeah.
what does it mean in terms of life energy and us slowing down the
Mm,
process, how we deal with what's going on with our planet?
mm, mm, mm,
Energy in our personal life, in our bodies,
mm,
and energy that flows towards doing something about the situation for the planet.
mm, mhm, mhm.
Or is
It's a
this
big,
not a question? Is it just me describing?
mhm, mhm. It's a big question, right? Because I think it assumes that something needs to be done. I think what do we do? How do we save the planet? Assumes that it needs to be saved. Assumes that there needs to be a savior. Assumes that there needs to be this reactive type of let me go out and on some level, I really think that's more of an egoic go out and fight because I want to fight, because I enjoy fighting, because I enjoy being a savior and playing this role of
But what if,
fighting.
like, it's super interesting for me because I am not observing myself as someone who is constantly just worried about the planet,
Mhm.
who even sometimes buys a plastic cup with coffee when it's convenient. And I feel bad about it and I do it and I try to not do it, but anyway, sometimes it's happening. And what does that say about me? Am I
Mhm.
like enough resting in, hey, everything is fine, or am
Mm-mm.
suppressing warnings?
No, neither. I think the fact that you said that you have an awareness of that means that your job is done. It means that if you had a choice to pick a bottle that was biodegradable or a bottle that was plastic and not biodegradable, and they cost the same amount, you would choose the bottle that is biodegradable. You have an awareness, a consciousness of what the right choice is. And even though those options are not always available for you, if they were, you would choose them. And I think just that level of awareness is enough for everyone. If everyone had that, because for some people, whether they be politicians or whether they work at a plastics company, the choices are that simple for them. They can just choose to do something else, but they don't because they don't carry that awareness. All we need to do is to spread that awareness.
Wow.
Just share that. You
Wow.
don't need to do anything else. Just
Wow.
spread the awareness. Yeah.
This is the key.
Yeah.
So we're doing the right thing when we're meditating, when we're going inside and
Yeah.
opening up for the answers from within.
Yes. And when we're communicating and talking about it, just to talk to a friend about, hey, are you aware of what's going on with the planet? Yeah. Wow. Wow. It's incredible. You know, a lot of changes. Yeah. Yeah.
May I ask one last question?
Of course.
Um, so there's the saying, the Mother Earth.
Mm,
Do you, as a scientist, feel or see, not feel,
mm.
see clear proof that this Earth is feminine?
Yeah. Wow. What a question. What a question. This is such an important question. And it's,
Relationship, it's interesting. Like, is it like
yeah.
us being kind of the masculine operating on the feminine? Like, is
Yeah.
there like this, or is this just
I think that anything that exists in this world, in this material realm, this 3D universe, right, that we can touch, that we can, throw a ball in and it responds to gravity. Anything in this world, in my opinion, is the result of masculine energy meeting with feminine energy, or feminine energy meeting with masculine energy. I think as we see in humans and in many species of animals and mammals and things like this, the female is the one that actually gives birth, that actually delivers the creation. And usually in nature, when things exist on one level, they kind of exist on all levels. That there tend to be universal truths that go across everything. It's just a law. And so there do seem to be intrinsic feminine characteristics in the universe, in nature, and intrinsic masculine characteristics, even in plants, right? And we know this. So I very much think that yeah, the planet has this motherly feminine energy for sure.
Mhm.
And I think at some point there was a masculine consciousness that seeded this feminine ability to create as well. And I'm not sure how that works. I don't understand it yet, but I do feel it. I have no idea, but I do feel that. Yeah. I do feel a feminine energy on the planet. Yeah,
Mhm.
personally.
Mhm. And so if we kind of connect this to we're overcoming patriarchy and
Mm,
the rise of the feminine and the sacred
mhm,
masculine is waking
yeah.
up. How could we, what from this perspective need human beings to hear, or how can we
Mm,
encourage the human being
mm,
like evolve more? What would
yeah.
be?
I mean, honestly, it's like see the beauty in yourself because it's all in there. We are all a hologram of the entire whole. And if we can see, I mean, the most one of the most mind-blowing things for me is that our bodies contain these multitudes of organisms that live inside of us, in our gut bacteria, in our skin, in our mouths, in our ears, right? Like there's things living everywhere inside of us. We don't see them, but you can talk to them. You can say, hey guys, how are we doing? Or girls, how, hey little people or whatever, how are you doing? How are we doing today? I just appreciating that. It's that consciousness of appreciation and self-love, seeing that we're a miracle. We're all incredibly complex miracles beyond anything science could, even conceive of creating. A human being is just incredibly miraculous. And appreciating that, it's the same consciousness that sees the planet. It's the same consciousness that appreciates a strawberry. It's the same consciousness that sees the entire universe, that sees everything, and it all fits together. It's all from that same perspective. So, however deeply we want to look, I think the first step is just loving ourselves.
Mhm. Easy.
Easy piece of cake. That's right.
Need
What
some-
could be what could be easier? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we didn't figure out if it's a good or a bad thing to be in a relationship, in this kind of relationship or that kind of relationship, because we don't need to figure out something that is about good or bad. It's
Mm,
about deeply feeling this truth
yeah.
that we are the miracles
Mm,
and that we deserve to love ourselves more. It's actually, I feel what comes through for me is pretty much an allowance for more resting with what is. Like it's basically, you don't need to rush, you don't need to feel guilty for living the way you live. Like allow
yeah.
awareness to really just
Absolutely.
ah,
Yeah. So good just to thank ourselves for having made it this far. You lived to today. I
hmm,
know in my own personal life, there have been some close calls. There have been chances I may not have made it here today. And I'm very grateful that I've made it. And so that gratitude toward myself for having survived and done my best gives me some kind of power. And it says, okay, now I can create what I want. Thank you. There's nothing wrong with me.
hmm,
Everything is perfect. Thank you for making it this far. You did what you had to do. What do you want to do tomorrow? What do you want to do today? What do you want to start thinking about? This is a great way to, for me, that works. I'm excited about that. Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so, so much.
Yeah. Thank you, Cecilia. It's
Mm,
always amazing.
yeah.
It's good talking to you.
Um, I hope we get to dig deeper and dive deeper into these topics. And no, really, thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's so, so beautiful to hear you speak from your consciousness and from your warmth and your open heart and your um, there is a great sense of feeling. I don't want to say the miracle, but
Mm.
something that is just miraculous here.
Cool. Well, it's fun. It feels good.
Digest science in this way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Of course.